the political service, Politico, recently had their top 23 green innovators for, I don't know what it was called, but for 2022. Do you know who their number one top green advocate was for 2022?
It was it Putin?
It was Vladimir Putin.
I mean, he's not trying to be that guy.
He's not trying to be that guy.
He's like he's like an asteroid, Like he causes things to happen, but it's not.
No, but there's a lot of people that are like pseudo praising him invading Ukraine because of
those people. Those people should be burned for energy. If you want to turn people into energy, turn those people into energy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Angel Research Podcast. Special edition. My name's Jason Freiert. I'm the CEO of Angel Publishing, Investment Research, and I'm here today with Brian Hicks and Alex Koyfman. Real quick, before we get started, nothing discussed here should be taken as personalized investment advice. We can give you the tools and the ideas to be successful, but we cannot act on those ideas. That is up to you. So welcome, Brian. You are the founder and president of Angel Publishing. And Alex, you are what would you call yourself? You are the investment director of Microcap Insider and First Call,
yeah,
correct?
That's what I tell people.
All right. So we just finished an election, midterm elections. It looks like the Democrats might hold on to the Senate. We're not sure at this point in time, and it looks like there's going to be a slight majority for Republicans in the House, which means gridlock, which is good, right, Brian?
Yeah, gridlock is always good. It was actually the intention of the founding fathers. When you look at the federal government, it's broken up in between three branches of government: the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. And even among that, checks and balances, you have it's under an umbrella system of federalism, of state governments versus national government. Anytime you have unified government, you usually get a president and a legislature that's very emboldened, and they want to push their agenda. So you need a counterbalance, and that's what I think we're going to have if the House goes. It looks like the House is going to go Republican, and that's the best scenario because most likely they're going to be very, very busy fighting each other, and when they're fighting each other, they're not fighting us, and that's when we can do what we want to do.
Koyfman, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen as far as the rest of the year?
In what regard? What do you mean the rest of the
market?
Well, I don't know. The last 2 days, it's gone down, like 600 some, and then last time I looked, it was up almost 1,000.
Yeah, we're up. Today's Thursday, November 10th. So the CPI report came out. It was still elevated, but it was less. It wasn't as high as expected. So the market's ripping today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a microcosm of what we should expect, which is indecision. I think that's what I would expect, at least through the end of the year. It's neither here nor there. You get rallies. Everybody theorizes as to why the rally's happening. And then you get corrections, and everyone theorizes again. So I don't know. Like, what huge catalyst are we waiting for to cause it to start going up again? What's on the horizon that might possibly cause that?
Well, I think what's on the horizon that we don't know? I think we know everything. I think all the bad news is pretty much discounted into the market, and
we know everything.
I think
famous
so.
Last words.
So you think the bottom has already hit?
I think the bottom has already hit. In fact, I was calling the bottom May and June, and even though the market went down in September, if you look at a chart of the Dow and the S&P 500, you'll see a very large double bottom.
You all right, Koyfman?
Yeah, choking on wine. Can we edit that out somehow?
Nah, man, we just keep rolling.
All right.
So we are
Awesome.
we are this is like happy hour today. This is a special edition. This is our first podcast with 3 people, so we'll see we'll see how it goes. We got wine. I think we're celebrating. Mr. Hicks just got an offer on his beach house in Bethany Beach.
Not just an offer, but full price. We signed the contract, and settlement is next month.
So, what made you sell one of your many vacation properties?
Oh, it's easy. I'm getting older, and every month, the pile of monthly bills was like this high. So when you have 3 or 4 houses, that means you have 3 or 4 cable bills, and you have 3 or 4 electricity bills and water bills, and it was just, having that many houses really is a young man's game, and I was just trying to downsize and focus on my primary residence in Maryland, and then my future primary residence, which is going to be in Florida. So that's what prompted me to sell. And plus the market where I sold in Bethany Beach, Delaware, it's still pretty hot. And I wanted to make sure that I locked in, a gain before interest rates went any higher.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think, where's your guys' take on housing right now? It seems to be slowing. Interest rates are up. Are you think we got further down to go in housing?
Well, where I live, there's the lack of inventory is kind of counterbalancing the rise in interest rates. So in my neighborhood, people are listing houses at a price per square foot that is way higher than where I bought it just 2 years ago. So we'll see, but I think the lack of inventory is definitely playing a role there. A lot of people still pay cash for houses, so especially high-end stuff and vacation stuff.
Yeah, and in Florida, where I am, both of you have been there to my tiny little island of Longboat Key. Inventory's low. There's still a lot of Northerners flocking to Florida to escape whatever it is they're trying to escape: wokeness, high taxes, crime, or whatever it is. They're still coming down. Up until Hurricane Ian, I was still getting cold calls from realtors to buy my house there. So the market is still, I would say, lukewarm hot, but it wasn't as hot as it was, say, like a year ago.
Right. All right. So let's touch a little bit on the crypto situation. Some people might have listened to my podcast with Stutman. I'm a big crypto buff. So I guess earlier this week, the FTX crypto exchange went into a deal to be acquired by Binance, and they've since, pulled out of that deal. Crypto or Bitcoin dropped. I think last night it hit like 15,000 and since bounced back up a little bit. Any takes on the crypto market? Are you a buyer here, Koyfman?
I stopped messing with that stuff last year. Honestly, I think that the worst buying indicator I've ever encountered in crypto is myself. So I don't get it. I thought I did. The amount of transparency overall in the sector, I think, is severely lacking for any normal people to make any normal prognostications, and this is a perfect example of it. The founder of Binance, nobody knows anything about him, right? Nobody knows what he's worth. And so situations like that is what turns investment into gambling, in my mind, at least. So I have heard all of the theories as to why this is the future of money, and I'm going to probably stay in stocks myself.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I'm on, I don't disagree with you, but I do obviously dabble in the crypto, and just the contrarian indicators that I got over the past 2 days from friends and family, like asking
if it's time to buy.
Yeah. And then exactly.
Time to buy or time to sell?
Well, it's been mixed. So the people that I have been conversing with since, I was first in crypto hard, in 2012 to 2014, they're asking to buy. And I said, yeah. So because I think this event is pretty a big event as far as, basically the exchange is in the Bahamas, and it was over leveraged, and the guy, I don't know exactly what the deal was. He asked the Binance guy to basically buy him out because they had the FTT tokens on their balance sheet and were gonna sell them. And I think he basically was like, look, if you don't buy us out, like your tokens are gonna end up being worthless, and and it might echo through the entire market, which it kind of has. So it's a pretty big event, and the fact that it has shown a little bit of resiliency as far as like, I say only going down 20%. I mean, that's like kind of normal in crypto. So I think this might be the final shakeout before we get ready to head up.
I would say this, and I've told this story before. I knew when the top of the crypto market was. It was late last year, and I hate saying this because they're my family members, they're my nephews. But I was on a road trip with my siblings and some of their children, which are my nephews. And during this entire road trip, this was in November of 2021, they just kept peppering me with questions about crypto, and they knew the lingo. They knew the jargon. They actually impressed me with how much they knew about investing. But the fact that they were asking me about crypto, and they're young. So I was like, and you remember, Jason, I was like texting you. I was like, guys, the top's in.
Top.
The top is in.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably go back in my text. It was probably like right near the top.
Weren't Ferg's kids dabbling in shitcoins too for a while there?
Yeah, and that was
that was the top. That's the top of the
bad
top.
sign. And but just to get back to your, so when an asset class melts down, okay, usually the strong hands are actually probably already selling. Okay, they're locking in profits. As that meltdown progresses, it's the weak hands that blow out. But at the very bottom of a meltdown is when the super strong hands say, "That's it, I'm done. I give up." So until you see that, and I think we're seeing that right now, like some of these strong hands are not just folding their cards, but they're actually going bankrupt.
So where's the bottom then?
I think the bottom rate. I would say I think the bottom's happening right now.
So buy?
I would be a buyer. Yeah.
I mean, it's been pretty negative over the past week. So. And I just tell people to zoom out because.
But I'm not a crypto buyer, though. I'm not a believer.
Well, in theory.
In theory.
Well, that's a good segue. What are you a buyer of right now?
Let me tell you something, okay? As I get older, I become more and more a believer of the genius of the stock market. The stock market's offers everything you need: liquidity, accessibility, participation in corporate America, participation in corporate profits, transparency. So I just sold my house in Bethany. I've owned that house since 2007. If you remember, in the housing crisis of 2005 through say 2007, the housing market became super illiquid. It went no bid, which means that people who were trying to sell their houses, there was nobody to buy them. Nobody wanted to buy them, and you were stuck with them. And what happened is they defaulted. They went into foreclosure. You don't really get that. You don't get that with stocks. There's usually always somebody who's going to buy your stock. So you have super liquidity. So that's where, as I get older, all my capital, all my investing capital is going to be almost 100% in stocks.
You putting your proceeds from the house back in the stock market?
Absolutely, yes. How about you, Koyfman?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much of the same game. I invested in real estate this year. I have cash, and I'm taking the biggest risks I've ever taken in my life in private equity right now. With all of this turmoil, with all of the fear and the threat of nuclear war and all this crap, I'm pretty much going hard into the biggest risks I can find. I have, obviously, like a mainstream portfolio with with low risk stuff in it, and I do have cash enough to live off for a while if the shit really hits the fan. But I'm taking the biggest risks ever.
That's a sign
right
of a
now.
bottom. That's a sign of a market bottom. The fact that he's taken the biggest risks of his life.
Well, I'm taking the biggest risks because I think that we're nearing a bottom, or at least approaching it. That's and I'm taking the biggest risks in private equity, knowing that I'm going to be locked in for a year to a year and a half, and that nothing is going to happen to share value because share value isn't dependent on the market. So I'm going to be insulated against any kind of risk, external risk, for at least the next 12 to 18 months. And my bet is that after that, I'll be in good shape. By the time these stocks go public, I'll be fine. So
yeah.
And by private equity, you mean private placements,
pre-IPO stocks.
right? Which is what you cover in
What I cover in First Call.
First Call.
Yep.
So, any particular sector?
I've done 2 big swings in biotech over the last couple of months. Nothing super exciting. There's a schizophrenia medication. There's a peripheral nerve regeneration technology that's fairly low risk FDA wise. So I'm not going to get into it because I actually did not cover either of those because I wasn't given any allocation for my readers. But personally, yeah, these are just big risks.
Yeah, so I mean, let's break that down a little bit. How you talked about allocation for your readers. So how would a typical, like, if someone were to join First Call, how does that typically work? You're vetting these companies out. They're raising capital at a specific share price, and you are actually talking to the company and allocating out a certain amount.
I usually talk to people of the bank that is raising the capital, and so what they do is for these exclusive financings, they would give me, for example, $500,000 worth of allocation for my readers. So my readers collectively could potentially invest up to, this is hypothetical, up to say $500,000, and that's what I would be given. And if they go over that allotment, then that they're out of luck. Yeah, that's
right.
it. So sometimes those allocations are much tighter. If this is like a friends and family investment round, which is the earliest, these companies are valued at say $9-10 million. Then usually I get zero allocation. I just get an offer to put in some of my own money. That would be it. And those are obviously the most kind of sought after, and that's the cream of the crop. That's what I go after. But as far as the readers go, then the next financing rounds, and they're usually 3 or 4 before the company goes public. Then that would be for the First Call people. Still, obviously, a huge premium to the market. They would get shares for half or a quarter of what it's eventually going to list for.
How do they know what it's going to list for, though?
Well, I've heard many opinions on that, including opinions that are kind of summed up by, I can't even begin to speculate on that or I'll get arrested. I've heard dramatic people email me things like that, but they kind of have a ballpark figure in their head. They understand from experience where things are going, where the company expects to be, and they have expectations that they may share with me or may not. It's usually a guess, but these people are
right.
professionals, and their guesses are usually pretty close.
Right, and so usually there's a minimum, right? So let's just take the $500,000 example. There's a minimum for that.
Yeah, the
say
minimums
20, 25,000 or something like that.
So I've worked with various investment banks, and I've seen minimums as low as 5,000 and as high as 100,000. So
Depends on the deal.
it depends on the deal entirely.
So members of your service, you sort of are looking for these companies, looking to vet them out, and once you decide that it's a relatively good deal, you'll send out.
Publish the basic details of the deal. Publish contact info of the person who knows the rest of the details, and then it's up to them. They can email the guy, get the subscription agreement, go through it themselves.
Right.
It's up to them.
It's up to them. So you might have, there might be 15 people looking to get in on the deal, and if one person comes and says, "Hey, I want to put $500,000 in there," then it's
everyone else
basically
is out of luck.
Yeah.
First come, first serve.
Exactly. First call.
Exactly.
All right. I like that. You working on it. I think is the one that you just released to your readers still open?
I doubt it. I haven't gotten any updates on it, but I doubt it. It was supposed to kind of close first week of November. So I hope there are going to be a couple more before the end of the year, but it's really hard to say. The problem with these financings is that they're highly dependent on broad market conditions. Obviously, they want to go in with the best conditions possible, and nobody wants to raise money when the market's kind of going to hell. So they do anyway, though. Like he said, they're always raising money no matter what's going on. It's a matter of how favorable pricing you can get.
Excellent. So as far as the public markets go, where are you looking at right
I mean,
now?
kind of quiet right now, honestly. We're nearing the end of the year, and right now I'm kind of looking more towards tax selling because there are losses. It's inevitable. So we're looking at maybe lighten the portfolio a little bit. We did just publish a re-recommendation this week of an old Microcap Insider stock that just happened to go down a little bit, and that's a high-tech nano lithium deal. You can find out more about it, of course, by subscribing to Microcap Insider.
How much is Microcap Insider?
It's $19.99 a year.
$2,000.
$2,000. It sounds like a lot, but if you can't spend that on the subscription, maybe you shouldn't be investing in these stocks.
What a bargain.
That's right.
I agree. And first call is even more, but if you're, if you're putting, it's pretty inexpensive if you're putting $25,000 to $500,000.
Yeah, and expecting, you need to, in your mind, have already lost that money. So that way it's all gain.
I like it. All right. What else you want to talk about, Brian? You got anything on that notepad over there?
Yeah, sure. I'll give my predictions. Since it's November, I'll give my predictions for next year. And in my former life, I was a technical analysis, meaning that I used to study charts and really study charts. So based on the double bottoms that I saw from, say, early spring of this year until September, my calculation puts the S&P 500 at a minimum of 4,883. Okay, the Dow at a minimum of 39,363, and I think that's going to happen next year.
So that's your prediction for the next 12 months for 2023.
For 2023, yes.
What about the rest of the year? We got 6 weeks left.
Oh, I think we're going to grind higher. I think we got the midterms behind us. There's a little bit more clarity, especially if the Republicans take the House. I think people are feeling a little bit more confident in putting some more capital into the market. They're also just tired of sitting on cash, right? Because they're not getting any sort of. I mean, this is why I love REITs and MLPs, is because I can get a bit better dividend yield than I can in the bank. So that's a vast majority of my personal portfolio right now are in REITs, dividend-paying stocks, and MLPs, which means master limited partnerships.
Yeah, what is it? Yeah, you want to explain a little bit exactly what an MLP is?
Well, it's MLPs are usually typically you'll see those mainly in the energy sector, the resource sector.
Okay, which is hot right now.
Right, and by law they have to pay a certain amount of their profits to their shareholders. One particular MLP or two particular MLPs that I love, I've owned for a long time. One is MPLX, which it's a pipeline MLP. Probably 2 million miles worth of pipeline throughout the United States, going in and out from the Marcellus Formation, the Permian Basin. When I originally took my position, it was paying a 17% dividend. So think about that for a second, a 17% dividend. The stock has gone up quite a bit, and now it's paying a 9% dividend. Another dividend-paying stock I love is Alliance Resources. And the ESG crowd's going to hate me for this one because this is a coal company. They produce coal, okay? And that stock has just gone on a tear, and they pay a 9% dividend as well. And my wife and I were hiking in Harpers Ferry about a month ago, And if you don't know anything about Harpers Ferry, it's where the Susquehanna meets the Potomac. So it's a vital transportation highway, and through that is an industrial CSX train railway that goes through there. And when I was there, we saw two trains, CSX trains. I swear it had to be 2 miles long each, of just carrying coal to the East Coast. And they're carrying all that coal to the East Coast, some for domestic consumption, but a lot of it was going over to Europe, because Europe is they're facing a very dire winter this year because of the Ukraine-Russian war. So they're shipping a lot of coal to Europe. Another REIT that I like, and I made a lot of money on this REIT in the past, is Innovative Industrial Properties. It was the very first cannabis REIT ever to be offered on the public markets. I originally bought it like at $19 a share. A few years later, it was trading over $200 a share. I sold, made a ton of money, but with this current market downturn, it's back down to $113 a share, and it's paying a 7% dividend. As you know, the state of Maryland just had their elections on Tuesday, and in Maryland we had question 4, which was to legalize cannabis, and it won overwhelmingly from like 65 to 35%. My entire family voted for it. Okay, so now you have 24 states and U.S. territories where cannabis is legal for recreational use. So that's going to really, I think, boost.
Yeah, I mean, are we at a tipping point here, Alex? Do you think what's Delaware? What's the deal in Delaware? Is it legal there?
It's not a good situation there at all. I don't think that there's any real. I mean, I don't want to say anything because I don't know the details, but I think that we're behind a lot of red states, actually, as far as.
I mean, can you get a medical?
I don't know if there are any medical dispensaries there. I mean, maybe a couple, but I don't want to say too much.
Why not?
Because officially I don't really know much about cannabis. I'm more of a gun guy myself, so you can't have both. But in Delaware, you can't have either, apparently, because they illegalized semi-automatic box-fed rifles, and there's no weed. So we really have 0 out of 2.
So no fun.
No, there's nothing. We have Biden. That's our fun.
So go ahead.
Koyfman lives about a half a mile from Biden, right?
Well, you see Joe out and about?
No, I do the road gets blocked periodically, and I have to go all the way around, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But it's cool. We have a Wegmans now, so.
So back to the gun thing. Is that a recent thing? Because I think Maryland did that too, right? Did Maryland?
No, not. It's not as severe. So in Maryland, I think they banned a bunch of different types of box-fed semi-automatic. The reason I'm saying that is because that's what most Democrats refer to as an assault rifle. But,
right. A scary looking.
Yeah, a box-fed semi-automatic rifle it's everything. AK-47, AR-15, all of that. That's the general type. So the Delaware legislature they kind of did the smart thing. If you want to get rid of that gun type, they just said none of this instead of legalizing them model by model, which is what I think they did in Maryland. In Maryland, you can still buy an AR-15. In Delaware, that's all over. I actually had one on order, and it got sent back to New York, of all places, which is where it was manufactured. They called me and said they had to refund my money, and that was it.
Because you were trying to have it shipped to Delaware.
I was having it shipped to Delaware, and it was like 2 days after after that law was passed, back in June. And so it never reached my hands. Went back to New York. I went to the store where I was supposed to pick it up because they don't ship it directly to your house, as some people will tell you. They ship it to the store where they do the background check and the transfer. And all of their semi-automatic rifles were just like, they were taped off, and it said out-of-state sales only. So...
So they can sell it to someone that.
They can do out-of-state transfers if you're from Maryland, for example. But you go in there with a Delaware license, and you're buying basically lever-action cowboy rifles and stuff like that, which is cool too. But
that's my next purchase.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun.
Yeah.
If you owned them before the law passed, you can keep them.
Right.
Okay.
And even the police don't like this law. They're not. I saw a sheriff's Newcastle County Sheriff's deputy at the shop when I went there the day after this happened, and they were almost as mortified as the shop owners, because all these guys have these things at home, and
But you're just saying the police don't like it just because
No, they
they're,
don't.
they're-
They-
but just because they're gun owners, not
yes,
because
yes.
like of
well,
what it
I mean,
means
some
to
of
their
them,
job.
some of them may be, constitutional fanatics or whatever, but yeah, they think it's stupid. They think that you're basically prohibiting the people that won't commit crimes with these guns from getting them. That's what you're doing.
Right.
That's generally the gist when it comes to any gun bans, for lack of a better word, is that you're only taking them out of the hands of the people who will never use them illegally, right? I mean,
Right.
that's how laws work. So yeah, Delaware, no weed and no AR-15s. Good work.
When are you gonna move back to Maryland?
I mean, Maryland isn't really great either. I mean,
Sorry, Florida with Brian.
Florida's great.
I don't like humidity.
Yeah, look. You think that hair would never stand up?
I mean, look, Florida's whatever. It's great, but between the hurricanes and the humidity, it's a little bit too much risk for me. I'm more of like a Maine type person,
Like Maine, the state.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because there I'm pretty sure you can have both. You got the guns and the weed, so it's perfect. And you're close to Canada, it's
Yeah, it
fine.
gets cold,
It's
though.
not too populated.
Yeah.
Probably like New Hampshire too. New Hampshire's a pretty libertarian state.
Good schools too.
Yeah.
So
Last thing, I think Twitter, Elon Musk taking over. Good thing, bad thing. Don't care because they're now private.
I mean, my opinion is that I think you're watching the world's biggest toddler play in the world's biggest sandbox and having a good time doing it. This debacle with the blue check marks.
Are you gonna get it? Are you gonna get a blue check mark?
I can't sign up for Twitter for
Ask
shit.
him how many times he's been
What do you-
banned from Twitter.
All of my shadow accounts, all of my burner accounts have been burned. I have nothing. They have all my cell phone numbers. I can't register another. I have to use my wife's cell phone number if I want to register a new account.
So now
And-
you're going to ruin her reputation.
no, I'm not. That's a bridge too far for me. So I'm not going to do that. But I think that his goal with the blue check marks is that he just wanted them to become meaningless. I honestly think that's what he wanted to do. And how do you devalue something that takes, just there was no amount of money you could have paid for one before, right? Like you couldn't have bought one for $20,000 or it wasn't for sale. Let's just put it that way. So now it's for sale for $8. It's basically worthless. All those celebrities that had these big high-profile opinions are now they're worth $8. So that's the lasting effect. I don't know if his goal is to just tank the company, but who knows?
No, I don't think.
Look, he's good at what he does as far as building value for shareholders. He's proven that. I'm not an Elon Musk fanboy. My favorite thing that he's ever done is SpaceX. I think that they just do some incredible stuff. Like that's an amazing example of what capitalism can do when applied properly. SpaceX is a great example. He took risks. He did it himself. And the technology is amazing, and I have a lot of admiration. But all the shenanigans is just like, I mean, whatever. Pissing off celebrities, I guess, is something you do when you have the kind of power and money. But it's just background noise, I think.
Brian.
I think it's going to be fun to watch. Well, it's already fun to watch. Just how
Yeah, I hope
how
Trump,
the wokers or the wokers are trying to cancel Twitter now.
Yeah, I hope Trump gets back on Twitter.
But they're
That
trying to
should be-
cancel Twitter on Twitter.
They're trying to cancel Twitter.
That's
on
the
Twitter,
funny
right?
thing. I mean, it's all within the ecosystem, so you can't.
Yeah, they
it's
can't.
It's just more tweets, that's the currency of the company, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's probably a good wrap up. Anything else you want to cover, Koyfman? You want to tease anything? What's the next hot stock we got coming down?
Next hot stock. Let me think about this. It's probably going to be something with renewables. It's going to be the best thing ever. I know that much already. It's going to be the greatest thing ever.
Your last stock was the best thing ever.
That's true. All of them are. Imagine that. That's. I like anything that redefines the lithium space personally. So I'm going to be probably looking heavily into that just going forward.
Yeah, you're pretty big on renewables. Do you think though, like Brian mentioned the coal thing, it seems like, I mean, not that there's pushback against renewables, but it's like when the energy cost gets up, like people are becoming
I think
caring
both,
less
both
and
things can
less.
be true at the same time. We're not going to be burning coal in 150 years. Most likely not. At least not at 70% of our watts in this country are not going to be produced by coal in 150 years. I mean,
Yeah, but we're gonna be
I'll
dead.
be dead.
well, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
No, I mean, look, I think that we're heading towards a society that's going to be more electron driven.
Sure.
For better or for worse, that's probably what's going to happen.
Or is it trying to get forced too quickly though?
Well, this is where I think and I've mentioned this before. I think the whole ESG movement is not just immoral. I think it's freaking deadly. Okay, so you have Europe, especially like Germany and Europe and Eastern European countries, scrambling to find fuel for this winter, and they're chopping down trees, they're stockpiling firewood, they're stockpiling coal, they're going to the hardware store and buying up as much 2x4s as they can. They're scavenging for pallets, and they're going to use all this stuff to heat their homes and cook their food this winter. So, and the political service, Politico, recently had their top 23 green innovators for, I don't know what it was called, but for 2022. Do you know who their number one top green advocate was for 2022?
It was it Putin?
It was Vladimir Putin.
I mean, he's not trying to be that guy.
He's not trying to be that guy.
He's like an asteroid, Like he causes things to happen, but it's not.
No, but there's a lot of people that are like pseudo like praising him invading Ukraine because of
those people. Those people should be burned for energy. If you want to turn people into energy, turn those people into energy. I think going back. Hey, look. Anybody praising that guy needs to be turned into fuel. I think they do the world a better service than by continuing to breathe my oxygen. That's my opinion. But I think that if the green movement was genuine and in its intent, they would go full force into nuclear. That's what I think they would be doing.
Yeah, but they don't, like, for some reason. Like,
yeah, they
why
don't
not?
because of Fukushima, because of Chernobyl, because of 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
We're not going to build nuclear power plants the way the Russians did. We're not going to do that here. France was like 75% nuclear at one point. 75%.
And what are they shutting down plants too? France?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that they've kind of.
think
Germany, Germany decided not to shut down some of their plants because of the energy.
Well, that
prices.
and plus they're restarting their coal fire plants now because they have to. So they're importing a lot more coal now than they did, like last year or the year before, because they're basically facing a black winter if they don't do something quick.
Right. So nuclear, it seems like
Wouldn't it make sense though?
Oh, 100%. Well, look, China's gonna do it, right? You think China cares about?
No, they're pragmatic.
Yeah.
They do what's practical. I trust them for that. So.
Yeah, except for COVID lockdowns.
Well,
they're locked down right now.
That's just the way that's the way they do things over there. They'll march you till you're dead, if they need to.
Apple was. I saw they were limiting airdrops because of the protests.
Airdrops.
When on your phone you can do an airdrop. I don't know. Mm-hmm. People were sending messages, and so Apple, the company, limited it. I don't know. I guess China.
To what end?
I don't know. Maybe it was like taxing their system, or China told them.
China told them to stop. They're sharing too much info.
So you're talking about the violent protests in China?
I mean,
that's going on right now because of the COVID lockdowns. Yeah. Do you think the people in China, the protesters in China right now, are getting shamed, like Americans got shamed for protesting the COVID lockdowns here when we got locked down?
Shamed on what? Twitter?
Yeah. Or by their,
No, they're getting their
by their family
kicked.
members. What?
I think they're getting beaten up and maybe
beaten up. Yeah,
crushed by tanks. That's how they do it over there. They don't shame. They don't care about that. They don't care about that. So, I remember, if you remember, it's like the new infection rate graph for China, it was just like 4,000 and then a flat line for about a
Yeah,
year.
never. Yeah.
So whatever they do, there's no transparency at all.
Well, the one thing I think they're doing though is, I don't know if they're playing some sort of super long game, but they seem to be locking themselves out of superpower status. Like, how are they going to recover from this? I mean, the lost economic activity just from these.
I think they are playing the long game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the long game, as far as what, like limiting COVID, like they have to realize that it's not that.
No, not limiting COVID, but I mean, they must be. There has to be another goal in mind by shutting down all the factories, shutting down the supply chain.
They're trying to mess with the U.S.
Trying to choke off the global economy from their supply.
Right. They're trying to just see how resilient the rest of the.
What's control?
Yeah.
Make everybody realize how dependent they are on that whole supply chain.
But that's the beauty of a capitalist system in America.
They're going to figure out ways around it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem to make much sense, besides maybe testing how much they can actually control the population, like a dry run on the next protests come around.
Well, you saw, look, what a great a comparison from Chinese culture society to American culture society. After 2 months of a COVID lockdown here, dude, we were like ready to fuck you, we're done. We're moving on. We're getting back to normal life. Over there, man, it's like, fuck. It's been 3 years now that the Chinese have been, periodically locking down that entire country. Imagine if that happened here right now.
I think they're conditioning their people.
Right.
I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're getting them used to this kind of thing, and
yeah.
And that's completely consistent with the way they've been running their society for hundreds of years, actually. The good thing about all this is that they're not an expansionist society. Like their new aircraft carriers that they're building, they're not nuclear powered. They don't have the ability to just roam around the world's oceans for years on end, flexing their muscle the way we do. They're not. They're just there for regional control, regional protection, and that's it. Same thing with their hypersonic missiles. They just want their own little corner to be theirs, and maybe a little bit more here, a little bit more there, but they're not building bases, in Nova Scotia or whatever the U.S. equivalent would be. So,
well, they want to just have citizens and people spread throughout the world and sort of send back, intel.
You mean like Fang Fang?
Whoever.
Remember Fang Fang?
Is that the who's that? Is that the senator?
Yeah, no, he was a congressman.
Congressman.
Right. He got compromised.
Yeah, I remember. Wasn't he also passing gas loudly? Was that another?
So far, the evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
Was that another?
He was. It's on
yeah,
TV.
I figured you would raise that.
It's on camera.
Yeah. We should cut to that or something, if possible.
Yeah, I'm sure these guys will edit. No, they'll edit out your coughing too. You feeling better now, Koyfman?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do that. So I'm just gonna own it. I almost choked on wine. That's what I almost did, but that's cool.
It's fine. All right. Well, you guys ready to wrap it up, or
let's wrap it up.
Or you got anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, I'm good.
You're good. All right. Let's wrap it up. Thanks for listening. See you next time.